differences. So let's quickly talk about security for both countries. I know there's really no safe society. No, I will start by saying there's no safe society, but there are safer ones. There's a risk associated with living in Nigeria than in Canada, without painting Nigeria in a bad light, but there's so much insecurity that has made you and I, if you're watching me and you're an immigrant that have moved from your country to Canada, those are the things that made you leave Nigeria. We have been robbed. I have been robbed before so many times, on the road, in my house. So many things has happened, and you just wonder, am I really safe in a country that should be keeping me safe? And those are the questions that we ask ourselves and reasons why we leave. I remember one of the robbery that happened in my house. I was so afraid that night I couldn't sleep. I had to pack my things to my in-laws place. That's my husband's aunt, and that was where I was staying. My husband still stayed in the house, and of course in the night he couldn't sleep as well. And I said, look, why torture yourself? We had to move house from that location to another place, because I said, look, I am not going back to that house. It was such a trauma for me, and I said, look, I am not living here anymore. So we face such things, even in traffic, that you just find somebody just hop beside your car when there's traffic, and it's just an avenue to rob you. These are things that happen. Here in Canada, there's also robbery. Yes, people rob in people's cars or break into people's homes. This happen, but it's not as bad as Nigeria. So I will still say security is safer here in Canada than in Nigeria. And I know that because there's always a 24 hours society, the way things run here, people tend to move around at any time, and they are sure of safety. For my first job, when I had to close around 2 a.m. at one point, I was really scared, because I was scared. I had a car, yeah, but I was just checking my mirror from the top to the left to the right to be sure that, guy, hope nobody's trailing me, because those are the fears that we have in Nigeria. I dare not be out so late, except those that really go clubbing. But you see, the city almost shuts down when it's getting dark, and that's the security that we're talking about. Okay, let me not overflog that. Let's move to weather. Weather as well for Canada is different from Nigeria, and I'm sure it's also made for the temperate areas that each country reside. So looking at Nigeria, we always have humidity. It's 2 seasons, the wet and dry season. Sometimes in December we call the season like Harmattan, because it's almost a bit cold and it's very dry. So Nigeria, the weather is kind of dry. We have sunlight almost, all the time. There's rain in between a particular season of the year. When it's raining around April, May to like July, there's always rain. And other times of the year, it is hot. It is scorchingly hot. You will hear, if you call anybody in Nigeria right now, they are steaming hot. It's either they are wearing sleeveless, or they are walking in shorts, or they are just trying to fan themselves here and there. It is very hot. And the humidity that is there is next to none, so you're always sweating and always looking for how to make yourself smell good, because of you don't want to have that odor kept in your body. On the flip side, and lest I forget, the temperature is always between 23 and above, because of course a country that is very humid. And in Canada, we have 4 seasons. We have the summer, the winter, the spring, and the fall. And all these seasons have their peculiar differences. And of course, within the summer season, it is almost like a Nigerian temperature. I say it all the time, because it is also very harsh. It is extra dry and it is extra hot. Yes, in Saskatoon, where I currently live, there is sunlight, in fact, all year round. Is a city that shines, and there's always sunlight, irrespective of whether it's snowing, whether it's dry, whether it's raining. Yes, we also have some rain, and it's like droplets, I call it, and they call it rain. I said, come to Nigeria and see rain, you will find rain. Anyway, with the 4 seasons that weather, there is also a difference in temperature, or that occurs. So we always have to check the weather before we head out, especially during the winter periods. You want to dress for the season. Right now we're still in winter, we're heading into spring shortly, but the weather is still a bit cold. Very unstable weather. You can't predict one day to the other with the weather if you don't ask Alexa, or you don't ask Google, or you don't check on your app to be sure that you are dressed for the weather. So you have to be dressed for the weather. Sometimes as it can be as low as -40. In some places we have experienced almost -50 here in Saskatchewan at some point during the winter. And of course during the summer periods we still get up to 23 degrees and above. Yes, we still get those temperatures here, and that's why there's extreme weather when it comes to some seasons. In fact, I call it extreme when it's cold, extreme when it's hot, and then when you're getting into fall, which is in between the winter and the summer. It's in between, and it's a good transition for those that are really coming from out of the country where they don't have this kind of season. They help them transit into the summer, although I know people like to come in the summer so that at least they will enjoy the same weather before the winter hits them. Do I like the weather? I don't like anything cold. Maybe the fall. Maybe the spring rather. I love spring. Of all the weathers, I like in Nigeria we all dress up, as in we show up. Here is not making us dress up. We're always covered up with winter jackets and stuff, which I really don't like. So I like to dress up a lot, and that's why I love the spring season. Let's talk about finding jobs and work life here in Canada and Nigeria. So in Nigeria, I would say work is a little bit different from the way we look at it here in Canada. We work, even our jobs really are between Mondays to Fridays, and sometimes depend on some particular roles or jobs there is Saturday. If you are a personal or a private owner, you work personally, you can always depends on the industry as well. Like when I worked in construction and retail, there's always a showroom that needs to be open even on Saturdays, because you have people that can't access or come to your store during the weekday and they have Saturdays to come, especially when they are building. And that was my life. I was working like almost alternate Saturdays, so I was used to it. Sunday was now rest day. Of course, this has to be discussed with your employer because you have to be paid for all that inclusive. However, in Canada, there is a 24 hours work life. There is a 7-day work life. You can work any day of the week here in Canada. It is 5 days, but your weekends can fall on a Monday or on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday. It doesn't necessarily have to fall on a Saturday and a Sunday, depending on the kind of jobs that you do. There's shift work, there's casual work, there's temporary jobs, there's contract jobs, there's so many kind of jobs that gives you full-time or part-time roles. And that's how even students, within their hours that they can work while schooling, they can always find casual jobs to be able to supplement their parents funding for them to be able to settle here in Canada. Maybe that will help them to pay their rent or pay their feeding. It does something for them, so they can work at least 20 hours, I think, for students. So it's a 24 hours society. You can be working at any time and you can be closing at any time, but it has to be a 5-day 40 hours. Same thing with Nigeria. You have to work, although I was working more than that when I was in Nigeria because we're also opened on Saturday. So the work life is slightly different for each role. And then for Canada, which I really love, is that you can work for shorter hours. You can work, it depends on what you really want and your situation part time. So if you can't work 8 hours, you can work 4 hours. It's just what you work that you get paid for. So it is not like you don't show up and you get paid. Nobody does that. So you have to show up for the hours that suits your purpose, and when you feel that your situation allows you to work full-time, then you go hunt for one. Right, so let's talk about the public holiday as it relates to Nigeria and Canada in the workspace. I would say in the Canada labor law, you're entitled to a public holiday, right, whereby you still get paid. As a federated regulated employee, you're entitled to 10 paid general holidays every year, including New Year's Day and Good Friday. These are the national statutory holidays here in Canada. There's also Canada Day, there's Labor Day, there's Christmas Day, and so many more other provincial holidays. Federal employees also get additional 6 days holiday, including the national statutory holidays that they enjoy. These are like Easter Monday, Victoria Day, there's Civic Holiday, there's Truth and Reconciliation Day, there's Thanksgiving Day, the popular Thanksgiving Day that we're always thankful, the Remembrance Day, and the Boxing Day. Recently, we just had a family day in Canada here, and everybody had opportunity to stay home. Although some special services rules that you can't really be shut down, like the clinics or some stores and some particular financial institution that don't shut down during that day, they will be paying their employees more than their usual wage for the day because it's meant to be statutory, but they couldn't stay off working. Generally in Canada, there's about 23 public holidays. However, you can't have 23 in a particular province. So sometimes a province can be on holiday and another province is working. There are some holidays, however, that cuts across every province. Like I said, the Christmas Day, the Boxing Day, and there are some provincial holidays. So for some Saskatchewan Day, Ontario cannot take Saskatchewan Day, right? So there's some provincial holidays that are peculiar to provinces, and of course the general ones that everybody takes together. So let's come to Saskatchewan, where I am currently. So apart from the 5 statutory holidays, Saskatchewan also observes 5 provincial holidays, and the provincial holidays are the Family Day that I mentioned that we just had. That's on the 3rd Mondays in February. Any 3rd Monday in February, there's Family Day, so it's a good time for families to stay together and enjoy fun times. There's also Victoria Day, and this is a provincial holiday. You know, I mentioned that provincial holidays don't cut across all provinces. Some provinces share those provincial holidays, but some it is peculiar to those provinces. Like Victoria Day, for instance, is a Monday preceding May 25th. That's a provincial holiday. The Saskatchewan Day is the first Monday in August, celebrated the history and the culture of Saskatchewan or Canada generally. That's what we do. There's Thanksgiving Day, that's the second Monday in October, and there's Remembrance Day, that's November 11th. Those are some of the provincial holidays that we enjoy here in Saskatchewan. Statutory holidays are meant for provincial and the national. Everybody is on holiday. Major offices are closed down. Stores, malls, are meant to be shut down, but some of them are not. But one thing that I realized here in Canada or in Saskatchewan is that only on Christmas Day that Saskatchewan is like a ghost town. I'm going to do a video on that, but mostly on that Christmas Day, people are indoors whining and dining. It's not really a time to go out, but Christmas Day, there's something always associated with Christmas Day. The snow has no part. Here in Saskatchewan, they're still packing, that snow that fell on that Christmas Day. Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, it was too much. And it's always a snowy day. That is one I've realized over the past years that I've been here in Canada. And also that everywhere is shut down. Stores, malls, everywhere is shut down. Nobody works on Christmas Day. And of course, talking about holiday, Christmas and Easter festivals for Nigeria are also celebrated widely with distinct West African flavor. Most of the Christians live in the south and the Muslims, in the north, but people still live across the cities and the geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And the Muslims actually celebrate major Muslim festivals, which is the Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Maulud, and Eid al-Kabir. And these are national holidays for everyone in Nigeria. Everybody gets to celebrate it. At least, even if you're not a Muslim, you get to relax or just stay home with your family. And in Nigeria, there's an average of 21 public holidays in a year. Nigerians love holiday, guys. Let nothing happen and then they add another Monday to that holiday. If it's a Friday, there's always one holiday or the other. But we still take holidays here, on the contrary, in Canada. But of course, it has impacts on businesses and other commitments that you have, because things have to just shut down or nobody works. Talking about jobs and finding jobs here in Canada, Canada jobs are diverse, like I mentioned, and you can always find yourself jobs in any field. You can change profession. It's easy for you to do that. In Nigeria, it's difficult. You can't be an accountant and want to be a nurse. You have to go to school to be able to, brush up and get all those skills and experiences. But in Canada, you can actually, within a short period of time, with certifications and programs, be able to go into that profession. That's the difference with job or finding jobs here in Canada. I know so many people that have changed or switched careers coming to Canada. It is so easy. It is so possible for people to do that. But in Nigeria, that is a no-no. Also, there are specialties here in Canada. Unlike Nigeria, for me as an operations analyst, I worked in different spaces. I worked in supply chain, I worked in inventory, logistics, I worked in sales and marketing at some point, in HR admin at some point. You know, the list continues because there's really no specialization in Nigeria. You can, yeah, some roles are specialized, don't get me wrong, but you can actually find yourself working from one role to the other, and that's why it has really paid off well for me here in Canada. It has given me diverse streams where I can find jobs, and that's the beauty of my being diverse in my work stream. But here in Canada, it is specialized. It's either you're in human resources, and even in human resources, it's either you're in compensation or you're in recruitment. You know, there's always specialty. You cannot be doing so many. I know back in Nigeria, in human resources, you can be the one in compensation, in recruitment, in analytics. You can, as long as you're in human resources, you're doing everything in human resources. But here, you are going to be specialized in one area. So your role when you're hired is either you're doing HR analytics, or you're doing recruitment or workforce planning, or you're in the admin, you are doing just administrative roles. It is specific, and you can't just, if you want another role or another part of HR, then you're moving into that part specifically. So finding jobs here is still easy. It's just that it's I love the part that it's also remote. I know remote work has been existing for a while, but we just haven't been so used to it. But understanding that COVID also brought its positive, and people can work remotely from anywhere is also a good thing. In Nigeria, it's kind of difficult, but COVID also has helped make employers understand that remote work are easy and possible for some roles. Another thing for jobs here in Canada is that there's no shame in shame. People look down on some particular roles if you are working in Nigeria and they feel, you're an administrator, or you're a customer service person, or you're an assistant to an executive, which is a big deal here. It is work that pays you good income. So some people feel that, oh, when you're on this particular role, you are not meant to be reckoned with. But here in Canada, there's dignity in every labor that is being engaged in. Everybody is putting their best in their services, in their roles, and everybody respects everyone for the kind of roles that you do. It could be menial roles. It could be very menial roles. People are there to do those roles, cleaning jobs. Yes, there are people that are there to even serve. There are people that are there to cook, to do laundry in the hotel, hospitality roles, those in housekeeping. These are dignified roles. In fact, there was a time that I saw one lady that worked in a particular store, and if you see the car she was driving, when we had to drive, I had to go drop some things in her car, and I said, wow, yes, there's dignity. You don't have to be an executive for you to drive a good car. And Canada has made it easy. Car does not show your bank account. It doesn't show. You can take car at zero cost. So there's always nothing like that. I know people size people up. That's the word. When they see which area that you live in Nigeria, or what kind of car that you drive, or your kind of house, or the school that your children go to. But in this Canada, with free education, who know who? Everybody is almost an equalizer, and I love the way Canada has made it so. So you can't, there's really, I'm still trying to find where the highbrow area is here in Saskatoon. I've not found. I understand there's a particular area, but even so, it is not so distinct in such a way that you feel left out, or those wide margin of disparity between where the rich stay and where the common man stay. So Canada has kind of bridged that gap. You can drive whatever car you want to drive, you can live wherever you want to live, as long as you can pay those bills. So you are not judged by the kind of car or the house that you live here in Canada, unlike in Nigeria. Right. I think with these few points of mine, I've been able to showcase the differences between Canada and Nigeria. Now to the point where I want to say what I prefer or which country that I prefer. Okay. Let's talk about this on another vlog. Just kidding, guys. So I would say I really don't have any preference. Both resonates well with me. I would say I prefer one country for some particular things. I'm sure by the way I have said some things that I prefer right from each of those talking points, you will see why I prefer one country to one, and on another talking point I prefer another country to another. So I still prefer Canada for embracing me, and I still love my country, Nigeria. So no preference particularly between Nigeria and Canada. Both countries have done me well. At least I can, when I have Canadian citizen, I will be able to have dual citizenship. So why can I disown one country? I am not a bad citizen. Guys, if this has been informative, if you really loved this video, do well to share, subscribe, turn your notification bell on, and of course we'll be bringing more of all that new immigrants need to encourage them or help them in deciding if to move to a new land. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you in another vlog.